Hey guys, hope you guys are doing really well this summer, and I'm here to give you another homeowner Homebot update. Hopefully you guys are enjoying all the information that's coming through Homebot. Again, if you guys click on anything or have any requests, please you can reach out to me. And what's cool is that in Homebot, whatever you select, as far as questions or anything like that, it actually goes directly to me. So just let you know that that's what's gonna happen, or you can just reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to give you guys information. Today we're going to go into just the update in the economy over the last month and how it's supposed to give us a decent forecast of what's going on. So before we get, I'm going to bring up my screen and kind of show you some graphics and kind of some data. That way you guys can just see the numbers for themselves. So one of the biggest topics that we have over the next, really to the end of the year, is when is the Fed going to cut rates? So Fed is going to cut the Fed funds rate specifically, and the plan is expected to be in September. Now, there are two things that determine whether they actually do that in September or not. Now, there's a chance that they may do it sooner, but when it comes to figuring out if they should lower the Fed funds rate or cut those Fed funds rate lower and start to lower it, what is going to give them that indication to do so? So to give you guys some background, the Fed funds rate is the Federal Reserve's way to basically control the economy or manage it. Really, the better word is to manage the economy, because the economy will go up and down depending on the situation, depending on the season, what's going on in the world, all that stuff. And the Federal Reserve's job is to manage the economy so it doesn't get out of control by using the Fed funds rate. Now, with the Fed funds rate, it does have a huge impact on the economy as well and how it moves along. And it takes a while for it to take hold, almost like 6 to 8, maybe 10 to 12 months in order for it to actually impact what's going on with the economy. We are now finally starting to see things to slow down. Now, what does that mean, slowing down? Well, the first thing is the first two things that the Fed is keeping an eye on to determine if they should lower the Fed funds rate or cut those rates is, one, the labor market, and two, how inflation is doing. Now, you guys have heard me talk about inflation by quite a bit. So to give you guys a quick snapshot of how inflation is doing, where it's actually doing really well. It's compared to last year where we were so close to the double-digit range. Now we're creeping down to 2%. And why that 2% number is how the Fed is determining if inflation is coming down to where heading toward in the right direction. It has been obviously in the last 12 months because it went from like 8 to like 3, which is really good. But they want to see more it to steadily creep toward 2%. And that's going to help them determine when they're going to help cut the Fed funds rate. The other piece they want to keep an eye on is the jobs report or the unemployment rate. So one of the things another topic that's being brought up is, are we going to go into a recession? Whether it's a hard recession, soft recession, depending on the situation. So one of the other key indicators is that is the labor market cooling off? Because they need the inflation to creep more towards 2%, and they want to see the job market cooling off. Job market cooling off means kind of in a sense the unemployment rate rising. That's generally how they're looking at it. So BLS jobs report also shows job openings, and they also have initial jobless claims, which means how many people are continue to file for unemployment benefits, things like that. So when we look at the unemployment rate specifically, that's going to be a big determining factor on the job market cooling off, because they're not hiring as many people, or the people who are being laid off or fired or not working anymore, it's a little bit harder for them to get work again. So that's how they're using the unemployment rate and why they're using it, to make sure that the economy is being managed. Now, one of the things that I learned in the last couple of weeks is the change in unemployment rate will also determine how soon we're going into a recession. So what I've learned is that in the cycle of the unemployment rate going up and down, if the cycle's low and the cycle's high, is a difference of 0.7%. So for example, if the last cycle low, it was April 2020, okay, and we were at 3.4% and for the unemployment rate. What the metric is, if the employment rate goes to 4.1%, we are going into a recession, or have been in a recession, plus or minus 2 months from that point. So Funny enough is that July, the unemployment rate came out, it hit 4.1%, 0.7 from the cycle's low in April 2020. So, which means we've been in the recession for the last 2 months, or we're about to go into a recession in the next 2 months. That's kind of like the average. And it sounds right now, if it's going to be a hard or soft recession, just determines on the severity, but looks like it's going to be a relatively soft recession compared to the last one. So that's one of the things that's very interesting, is that unemployment rate is officially at 4.1%. If that continues to go up, that also helps with that data coming out and unemployment rate rising. It actually helps mortgage rates. Same thing with inflation coming down. If inflation continues to report to come down, the reports showing that it's coming down, mortgage rates also continue to improve. So you have these two things that could potentially help. And those were the two things over the last year that's caused rates to be where they were at. Inflation was coming down, but unfortunately the unemployment rate pretty much stayed relatively steady up until the last few months. So now we're seeing the labor market cool off, and now we're seeing all these impacts to mortgage rates as they are. So that's one of the important things that's coming up, is that this is a determining factor if we're seeing a recession in the next few months or not. I wanted to show you guys the just an example of inflation charts to just kind of give you an idea over the last over the last year. We've been seeing inflation come down by quite a bit. In 2022, it peaked at 9.1%, and now we're at 3%. So there's been a lot of great changes with inflation. Headline and year over year, they're two versions of the same inflation report. And just so you guys know, there's 3 inflation reports that come out every month. One of them is consumer price index. The one that comes out the next day is producer price index. And the last one at the end of the month is personal consumption expenditures. So that's what I want to give you guys a graph to kind of show you that inflation is coming down. Now, a lot of people are wondering, is the housing market going to be an issue? Not really. We're still seeing a lot of homes being sold. Homes are staying on the market for a little bit longer because there's not enough buyers. But for the most part, there's still homes being sold. The main thing is buyers. There's still the decent amount of buyers, and as you guys can see, right now the math is 4.1 months supply, which is a really good sign, because at 6 months we're at a balanced market. Before, it was less than 2 months. So we're going in that direction. But to give you guys a bit of a metric, if rates drop by 1%, that means about 5 million more people are eligible to buy. So as we're seeing inflation comes down and unemployment rate go up, and rates are coming down because of those things, and it drops by 1%, we're going to have 5 million more people enter the marketplace, or have the ability to come into the marketplace. And that's a really important detail, because that's going to cause a lot of competition. And if you own a home while this out happens, you're going to see probably quite a bit of appreciation on your house, which means your house is going to be worth more. So this is kind of the statement that Christopher Waller, part of the Federal Reserve Board, right now they're saying, essentially we're looking at a soft landing for recession, but right now we are getting closer to the point where they might start considering cutting those Fed funds rates, or cutting those rates. And right now the plan is to talk about it in September. They're probably going to do at least one rate cut this year. That's the intent. So that's something you guys can look into, but it all depends on how these reports come out on a month-to-month basis. New constructions are still happening, and roughly mortgage rates, to give you guys an idea of to visualize, we're back to where we were starting at the end of March, beginning of March, basically. Where March was. So this is where we're at. We're basically in the high 6s, low 7s. This is for like VA, USDA, FHA rates. Conventional's a bit higher, but we can also see that we're back to kind of where we started in March. So this is a good sign of it coming down, because of the labor market cooling off, and because inflation is coming down. So that's something that's really exciting for me to kind of tell you guys that it's just around the corner. It may not be as fast as we expected. We were talking about quarter 3, quarter 4, where we might see the 5s again. We probably won't see that, but we might start seeing low 6s again, maybe mid 6s by the end of the year. And then into 2025, we could see those 5s again, where we could start seeing you guys to refinance. So if you guys are getting messages and things like that, You probably are. I would just be very mindful because right now the cost of those rates are extremely high, and you could be eating out a bunch of equity, and put yourself in a situation where you're trying to sell a house and you don't have enough room in your house to sell it, and you might be paying to sell your house, which is a really tough situation to be in. So before you do anything, I'd be happy to analyze those numbers for you and let you know how it goes. Otherwise, that's it for today. I'll talk to you guys next month.